G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Hello, you want to be fed, do you? Want to eat the camera or do you want to take the bread? Oh yes, you're cute. You're terribly cute. And you're pretty cute too, aren't you, eh? Not a bad picture. What do you think? However, not everything in the picture is perfect in the way we want to look at it. See that? Green grass growing on the 20th of June. That's not what should be happening in the New England tablelands. By this time of the year when I was a kid, pretty much every night the overnight minimum would be coming down to 0 degrees. 3 or 4 weeks ago, this place was all brown because of the drought. We've had some drought relief, maybe 60 millimetres of rain, and the grass has started to grow again in winter. It grows in winter because the soil has not become cold enough to stop the plant's metabolic processes or slow them down. Which is why a couple of months ago I spent quite so much time running around brush cutting, trying to turn all the dead dry flax lilies into a mat, a carpet, a sheet mulch event. And only the green, vibrant flax lilies were left alone. And I cut them down when they had become dry and brown and scary to look at on a hot day. And after I made sheet mulch out of the flax lilies, behold, vast numbers of trees decided they didn't want to retain all of their leaves, because if you keep the leaf, you have to keep it alive, and the leaves live by transpiring. So lots of leaves were switched off, unless the tree had its roots in a nice deep crack and it could get plenty of water. Some leaves have survived. Some trees have survived. But all told, it's been unpleasant to watch as the canopy falls down onto the ground, and the only good thing you can see about it is that the leaves are interlocking with the flax lilies, and not all of the trees have lost all of their leaves. Some brown leaves are still clinging, and in among the brown there are some green ones. And as I said, this is a phenomenon caused by a steady warming in the average overnight minimum temperature in winter. Now, I've cited the extremes in previous videos. Back in about 1986, I went to the Stockwood Music Festival at the end of May, and at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was leaving Waitalaba, it was minus 15 degrees. And I remember feeling pleased with myself for having an electric fuel preheater on my diesel to warm the fuel up and stop it from clogging the engine with wax. In 2021 or so, might have been 2019, again in 2023 at Stockwood, 3 o'clock in the morning, end of May, leaving the music festival to come back up here. Didn't want to sleep in my car. We're talking 11 degrees one time and 14 degrees another time. So the overnight minimum between 1986 and 2023 or so, we're 20 degrees above what it used to be. Like I said, that's an extreme. Not many people want to be guided by extreme anecdotes, so instead of that, let's have a look at the overnight minimum temperatures so far in this June. Skip back 10 years to 2016 and skip back another 10 years to 2006. And happily, I am the kind of anal retentive control freak who has the same insulated, ventilated, shaded hutch for a recording maximum minimum thermometer, and it's the same maximum minimum thermometer. There is a couple of uncontrolled variables. One is the greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere. The other one is that this here used to be inside the forest canopy, which the edge of which used to be over the top of my hut. And the forest itself has retreated. So at night, that thermometer is no longer surrounded by the thermal mass of all the trees that are no longer here. Living trees are 70–80% water. Water has 10 times the thermal mass of steel. So it takes a lot of cold air to cool down a tree. So that thermometer should actually be getting a lot colder now because it hasn't got so many trees around it. There's always anywhere from a 2 to a 5 degree Celsius per night temperature difference between that thermometer, still waiting around hoping to be fed, and the thermometer in the electric weather station, which is out here in the middle of the clearing, not surrounded by trees. It's got a few shrubs, it's got water storage on the ground, but yeah, that's always a lot colder than the thermometer under the trees. You reckon? Oh, you would like to be fed? Want a biggie? You sure? That's it. What about you? Busy chewing your cud? Processing the bread? What do you reckon? There you go. Okay. I will leave you to be supervised by the bowerbird. As mentioned, there's the calendar and the temperatures. We write down the morning temperature in the morning, and in the middle of the day we write down the midday temperature. And because it's a recording thermometer, I only have to look at the thermometer once a day and write it on the calendar one occasion per day. And yeah, we have June 2006, sorry about the reflection. And we have June 2016, sorry about the reflection. And so you don't have to squint at all those little figures. There we has the graph. 0 degrees is the heavy black line. The blue line is 2006. The green line is 2016. The red line is 2026. Overnight minimum temperatures recorded in the same place by the same thermometer, in the same forest on the same ridge. Minimum temperature average in June 2016, 3.48 degrees Celsius. 2016, 5.18 degrees Celsius. 2026, 6.925 degrees Celsius. It's not a figment of a deranged imaginitis, it's what's happening. It matters, little humbug. It matters a very great deal. Because once upon a time, when the soil cooled down and the plants stopped growing, they stopped using the subsoil moisture, which matters because we get most of our rain here in spring and summer and autumn. We don't get much rain in winter. And it doesn't matter if you don't get much rain in winter if the autumn rain stays in the soil because the plants have gone to sleep for winter because the temperature's low enough that their metabolic rate slows down to the point where they don't use the water. But now, anthropogenic global warming has changed the gas mix of the atmosphere and we're succeeding in retaining more heat every year. Every square metre fails to radiate the heat that it should be radiating to keep us in balance. And therefore the air gets warmer and the surface of the earth gets warmer and the surface of the sea gets warmer. And one of the effects is that the grass in my clearing is continuing to grow all year. And this year we're in a super El Nino. And in the super El Ninos, we get a warm winter, warmer than usual. Doesn't actually alter or affect our rainfall, but because it's warm, we come out of the winter with bugger all soil moisture unless we get an unusually wet, warm El Nino winter. And some of us have been paying attention and preparing for quite a long time. Other people like to pretend there's nothing to worry about. They like to pretend that everything moves in cycles and we'll get back to what it used to be because everything goes back to what it used to be. I don't think they're right. I think this warmer every year trend is going to stick around, particularly as we continue to burn fossilised carbon and inject it into the atmosphere. And carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. And there are people who like to pretend that climate science is a hoax, or it's wrong, or it's a communist plot, or it's a greenie plot. And those people tend to have funding from the kind of industry that depends on not being regulated because it's much more profitable to burn coal and oil in the short term than do anything else. And there are billions of people who think that it is their God-given right to flick a switch and have the light come on without them having done anything about solar panels and batteries and buying the gear. They expect the surrounding community to provide them with almost free electricity compared to what it would cost them if they were to gear up to make the amount of electricity they want to consume. Oh, but my business model, my business model. If there's no environmental surplus, no economic activity is possible. Failure to appreciate that has led the 8.3 billion selfish humans with whom I share this planet to fixate on how much money they can make and how fast they can make it, rather than what they can do to try and care for their country. And they've brought things to the situation where, as the rains fail, as the plants run out of water, the only thing this little tree-hugging greenie could think of to do was buy a bloody wood chipper. Because the air is all the way around that tea tree. If that tea tree is alive and full of water, it's got less chance of burning fiercely than if it's dead. A dead tea tree is ready to go woof. A dead tea tree that's been through the wood chipper is laid out in a mat, and the air can only touch the top surface of the uppermost wood chip. So your triangle of fire is broken. It's not surrounded by air, it's merely in contact with it on one side. And being a mat on the ground, when it's sprinkled with water, it might soak the water up and provide a wet surface for the embers to land on. It doesn't seem to kill the moss, it doesn't seem to kill the plants. They just grow around the wood chips. So far, I think I've burnt about 8 litres of petrol over 14.5 hours. And I was using a solar recharged electric chainsaw to trim the tea tree. So I think that's working. How it's going to go in the coming spring, when the rest of these leaves have fallen off the trees, and I don't know how many of the trees are going to die, but it becomes difficult to make oneself believe that they're all going to recover, because they've recovered from so many droughts already. They're running out of epicorms. They've used up their ability to bounce back. But that's what's happening. That's why the grass is still growing in the middle of the winter. It's because the soil is not freezing. 6.92 degrees average overnight minimum this year, as against 3.48 average overnight minimum right here 20 years ago, same month. It's a bit scary, isn't it? The joys of having to share the planet with 8.3 billion devotees of the broadacre death cult of harvest everything-ism. And it's a matter of Tina. There is no alternative. We just have to do the best we can to try and prepare the patch of the surface of the earth for which we are personally responsible, and hope that the karmic comeuppance, when it arrives at the people who voted to grow the economy, doesn't take us out with the side spatter, the shotgun effect. And that is where you just pretty much reduce to relying on faith. Does the universal creator God theory know what they're doing, or does the universal creator God theory have no fucking clue? I prefer to live in a universe operated by a competent, benevolent universal creator God theory. Not everybody chooses to live in that universe. Some people think their creator God theory is so pathetically useless that they need to keep a weapon to protect themselves from everything of which they can imagine to be afraid. Instead of caring for the country, they care for their guns. Instead of caring for their neighbour, they worry about what their neighbour might want to do to them, and they prepare to defend themselves against their own fantasy. And there's bugger all any one of us can do to change them. You can't tell somebody not to stub their toe, you just got to wait until they get sick and tired of running their toe into the rock. Warbles on like to YouTube. 3.48 degrees versus 6.92 degrees. Average overnight minimum, right here, in the same place, 20 years down the track. And most of the bloody city's ends don't pay any attention to any of it. It's only oddballs who give a shit. Ain't that right? Such is life. Take it easy. Ciao.